Hello everybody, this is Dan Brown here, and this is a commentary on concepting out an interior for the conference room. As you can see here, I started with the outer shell of the bridge section, the command deck section of the Adamant model, so that it makes sure that it fits, and I do a very rough mock-up. And then I wanted to just get rid of all the excess geometry because I wanted to focus on the conference room first. Why I decided the conference room. I just thought that would be an easy start. Since it's not much, it's just a table in a room. I start with general geometry. I usually start with a doorway, concept out the doorway. In this case, this doorway was eventually replaced, remodeled completely. It turned out to be too rounded on top. It didn't fit with the rest of the stuff. But as you can see, I usually try to use some models, 3D models of people in order to figure out scaling so that it works. In this case, the doors turned out to be around 8 feet tall, or about 2.25 meters. And I ended up, I think that's right. Anyway, so I ended up doing that. And then what I do is I use Boolean operations. Now, I wasn't a big Boolean fan until I looked up some stuff by Master Xeon that I follow on YouTube, and anyone who is interested in hard surface modeling should probably look up and follow him too. He's really good, and he has some really great ideas. In this case, he dissuaded me from using edge split. And he's totally right about that. Instead, I use another thing in the object model, object settings. Anyway, as you can see, it's just simple Boolean operations to add some sci-fi kind of geometry, and then I figured I'd do this to add some detail. But I ended up discarding, as I said, this because, as you can see, you might be able to see it later in the video, it's a little too rounded on the doorways and it doesn't fit. It clashes very badly with the rest of the geometry, the rest of the motif. But as you can see, it's just pretty much just very quickly moving things around, seeing what works and what doesn't, and doing it mostly by eye. I do very little concept work in 2D. I don't like drawing, I'm not very good at it. I'm better at the 3D stuff. So what I do is I just go in and do what looks right, what feels right to me, what I'd want. It might not be the best decision, but that's what I like to do. Again, using mirror modifier, I like to simplify work and to make sure everything's nice and even and nice and looking. Here I am adding the filler so that this door can fit inside something. This is just throwaway geometry on the outside. It's just to add some, it's just to fill in, to keep, it's just there to make it look presentable. And then triangulate all the meshes, hoping for the best. But usually there's some correction that needs to be added. As you can see here, there's a little bit of, so now it's fully just fixing up the geometry, cleaning it up. And this is tedious work. Most people, this is what kills them. They don't like 3D art because of this. And people ask me, well, how'd you get into it? What school did you go to? And I usually tell them, I'm self-taught, that it's mostly just patience is what people need if you're going to do this kind of stuff. This kind of stuff is my favorite part of the 3D modeling phase, is the concept, getting what I want out. I usually start with the door because doors are the best place to start. Other people may have other ideas about where they want to start. They might start with the ceiling, and I've done that. But doors are the best for me because it's an entry place, I guess, and psychologically that works for me. Or it might be because everything is based on the scale of the door. At any rate, concepting out 3D, sci-fi doors is actually harder than it looks, because doors don't usually look very good. In this motif, as you can see, I'm doing the standard inset kind of crooky thing, and the sliding doors, and it just didn't look right. It didn't match with the curved look that I wanted the ship to have inside. And so I discarded it very quickly. And what I did was instead I went with simple sliding doors. Deleted some stuff and added some surface geometry to give it some lines. And some visual interest. Later I discovered that I had messed up here. I would delete these excess faces and just do a mirror modifier to make sure that both sides of the door looked even. Right here. And literally all this is going by eye. I take out things, I put it back, whatever looks good. Whatever I think might be visually interesting. And if it doesn't fit with what I want, I just delete it and try something else. It's not the most efficient way to do it, but there's no real efficient way to do any kind of art. If you're doing it for simple speed, then you're probably doing it wrong, as far as I'm concerned. I'm more about the journey, not the outcome usually, especially with my own work. As you can see now, the doors are pretty much done. I just finalize the whole mesh, and then I separate out and add vertex groups for the door right and then door left. And then what I do is I add a shape key, closed, and I just make a closed version, and then the door's open and closed. And later I'll animate it. I might add a little bump where it opens a little too far and closes slightly. That's it. So now I look to see if the door fits, if it works properly. That will be opening out into the bridge in front. I later changed the floor. Right now what I'm doing is I'm concepting out the walls, again looking for the right look. I use a humanoid model as an example. I wanted the ceilings tall, but I might have put them a little too tall. I'm uncertain on that. I'm still kind of divided, because in my universe that I made, there's some really tall aliens that will probably visit the Adamant from time to time, and I might leave those doors like that. I don't know. But as you can see, the ceilings are quite tall. I think they came up to 12-foot ceilings in the end with the ceiling trays. I like using this. Another technique I learned from Master Xeon, though I changed it a little. I've since gone back and watched him work again and discovered that I was messing up a little on his technique, and that his technique had some better ideas, and so I've adapted again to use his technique. But this was a few weeks ago, so I decided. Somebody asked me how I do these little inset curved walls, and I discovered that I wanted to do it this way in order to maintain topology a little, because the topology got a little crazy when I did this before. I ended up discarding all of this geometry and redoing the entire scene. Again, mirroring to save geometry, modeling time. And then we do a simple grid fill. Making sure to use auto smooth. As I said before, I discarded the use of edge split because it just creates unnecessary vertices, which can clutter up and make the mesh heavier. I shudder to think of all the poor clients I've inflicted edge split on over the years. To keep the motif to save angles, I'm a big believer in homogeny when it comes making things homogeneous, making things look like they all belong together. And so I use similar angles or similar radii of curves or things like that in order to make sure that everything meshes correctly. Again, it's just going by eye. What do I think looks okay to me? What my design decisions are may not mesh with other people's. Concepting out these designs gives a chance for me also to employ modeling techniques that I have to learn without having to learn on somebody else's dime. These kind of personal projects give me valuable training time, and I recommend them even to people who might have a lot of clients or a lot of work, or freelancers. Now we select all the sharp edges. Now this mesh is very untidy. It will be completely replaced, but it's again just a concept to see what it looks like and to see if everything works right. Now here I am. I took the mesh and I'm making the actual room now, using it, positioning all the curves, making it fit, again with snap on to make sure it works. There's some math that needs to be done. Coming up here you'll see my calculator come out, because there's some angles that were a little crazy here. There were no 90-degree curves except for this corner here, which turned out to be 90 degrees perfectly. I was very surprised that by accident I had made two angles that were angular walls that just happened to be 90 degrees. It's totally coincidental. The chances of that happening, I guess, are not very good. I wouldn't care to speculate on it. Again, I want to make sure that the room fits as much as possible, as reasonably as possible, inside the pre-existing geometry of the outside of the Adamant. So I take this wall here, this wall geometry outside with the windows, and put it in. In this case, the geometry didn't work exactly right. I couldn't make it work, so I fibbed a little. If you actually were to put this mesh inside the Adamant model, the windows would not perfectly sync up. I added additional detail to the windows inside and curved them a little in order to fit with this curved, circular, very soft inside, because the windows were very angular, as you can see. I hope this gave you a few ideas. Have a good one.